Hey guys, glad you stopped by. So today, if you got yesterday's video and stayed to the end, which if you did, thank you. A wonderful dish. That barbecue meatloaf mac cheese casserole went over, was a huge hit here in the old Smith household. But I alluded to doing a cheesecake, and I thought, you know what, why not? A couple friends of mine have been on me to make this cinnamon roll cheesecake now for a long, hot minute. And I thought, you know, it's time. It sounds absolutely amazing, and why not? I love to make cheesecakes. Cheesecakes and pies. If I could make those all the time, I'd be in hog heaven. But I don't get to. So, that being said, we're going to make a cinnamon roll cheesecake today. If you're new to my channel, this is your first video, welcome. If you are returning or one of our new subscribers, welcome back and thank you. Hands down, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Those are all important. And, you know, comments are always welcomed. All I ask is you be nice. You know, it's okay to disagree. Me, anybody in the comments, but keep it civil. You know, think before you type. And, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Don't forget to hit the notification bell, and that way you know when my videos come out. They come out about twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week. That doesn't mean you have to watch them right away, obviously, but you know, at least let you know that I've got something new out, and that keeps us all out in the algorithm and helps to grow our neighborhood, right? We're trying to grow a neighborhood and a community full of good neighbors, you know, helping each other out through communication and good food. Yeah, and I was thinking, real quick, this is kind of off topic. How many people watch not only my videos but maybe other videos and go, well, you know, it's easy to make that. You have all those gadgets, you know, and the stand mixer and, you know, a food processor, and you know, I didn't always have that stuff. And I want you to know that, because at times I feel guilty because I use my stand mixer or, you know, whatever. But what I did was I saved for it. I saved, you know, $5 here, $10 there until I could afford to buy it. And I've been doing this, I've been baking and cooking a lot longer than I've been doing videos. And so I've accumulated things over the years. I did not get this all at once. So don't get discouraged if you are newer to baking or cooking and you may not have that tool. I try as best as I can to give you an alternative for it. A lot of times, you know, you can make everything we do, at least baking wise, with a hand mixer and a bowl. You know, and hand mixers, depending on what type you buy, aren't horribly expensive. They're not a stand mixer expensive. I couldn't even afford a stand mixer nowadays. It's so expensive. But anyhow, I don't want you to feel like you can't do this because you don't have the same tools I have. I didn't always have the same tools I have either. It took me a long time to get, you know, this pan collection going over here, and you know, which I think pretty much you've seen all my cast iron now except for a couple things. But, and you'll notice I use the same bowls over and over and over again. But anyhow, before we get started, I will give you all your measurements in cups, tablespoons, teaspoons. I also do grams and milliliters, and on the rare occasion kilograms. But that way everybody can play along, right? So that all being said, me taking up 3.5 minutes, let's head on down to the counter here and we'll get this party started. All right, hold on for me 1 second. Okay, we're down here at the counter. So first thing we're gonna need to do is make our crust. So to make our crust, we're gonna go ahead and start our oven, hit it at 350. And I don't know about you, but I always double check, make sure there's nothing in the oven, because I like to store stuff in the oven all the time, if at all possible. So what happens is you get more stuff than you got space. You get creative, right? So first thing we have to do is we're gonna make our crust, and we're gonna make a graham cracker crust. Now, to make the graham cracker crust, you're gonna need 198 grams of graham cracker crust, or beat up graham cracker, right? Crumbed up. You can buy this pre-done, but why? It is 12 graham crackers. Whole graham crackers would be 4 squares per graham cracker, 12 of those. And then just smash them up, whether it be with a rolling pin and a baggie or a meat mallet, or if you have a food processor, or maybe even a blender for that matter. But you want to get it into a crumb at either rate. To this, I am going to add 3 tablespoons, 15 grams, or 3 tablespoons, 45 grams, it's 15 grams per tablespoon, of regular old white granulated sugar. And then I'm going to go ahead and give this a quick mix. Now, if you're using a food processor, you can most certainly just put the sugar in with the graham crackers and do it all at once. And then to that, I'm going to add 6 tablespoons, 84 grams of melted butter. So we'll go ahead and get that in there, just like such. And butter cooled a little, started to solidify on the sides. And then you can either take the spatula that you use to scrape your partially cooled butter out with, or you can use a spoon, whatever suits your fancy. I prefer to do it by hand, but I am going to put a glove on because the thought of getting butter all over my hands doesn't sound good. So you want to get this mixed up so the graham crackers are evenly coated with the butter. Okay, so we have got our graham crackers coated with the butter and looking good. Now, if you want to test to make sure you got enough butter, because graham crackers can be finicky. Sometimes it takes a little, sometimes it takes a lot. You want to just squeeze your graham crackers like this, we'll make a fist with it, and when you open up your fist, it should look like that. It should stick together. So now all we have to do is take our 9-inch springform pan, which if you don't know what a springform pan is, it has this nifty switch on the side there, and it comes apart like that. And what that does is it allows you to take your cheesecake out of your pan. In a regular cake pan, that could be interesting. It can be done, but it can be interesting. It takes a lot more work. It involves parchment paper and scissors and a lot more work than I want to do. So go ahead and get our graham cracker crust mix into the springform pan, just like such. And then we will go ahead and get this pressed down evenly. You can use your hand like I am doing right now, or you can use, if you have a cup or something of that effect that's got a flat bottom, you can use that to press it down with, but I don't, so I just use my hand. Okay, so we got our crust in the pressed down in. Now you notice there's like some white speckles on there, and that's because there was a little bit of sugar left in the bowl that I didn't catch beforehand, so I just sprinkled it on top. It's going to melt down into it. So now what we're going to do, our oven is at 350 degrees, so we'll go ahead and put our crust in the oven, and we're going to let this bake for 10 minutes. Now, oh shoot, let's try that again. Ugh. Happens to the best of us, right? 10 minutes. So let's say you don't want to use graham crackers. You have the option to use Nilla wafers, or the vanilla wafers, the little round cookies, biscuits like. You can use those, and that will work just as good. Those were both options in this recipe. And if you do want to use those, it's still 198 grams of the wafers with the 6 tablespoons of butter and the sugar. Nothing changes. That would be the same if you wanted to make an Oreo crust for a cheesecake. Exact same weights. Exact same process. So anyhow, let's go ahead and get this baked. I'll show it to you when it comes back out, and then once it's baked and we're cooling it, we'll go ahead and start making our mix. Alright, I'll see you here in a second. Okay, so our timer's going off, and I'm dropping stuff on the floor. So we'll go ahead and get our crust out of here, just like such. And I don't know if you can tell or not, because I don't think I gave you a really good shot of it prior to, but see how we've darkened in color and gotten a nice, crisp look to it? That's what we're looking for. I know the sugar's still sitting on top, but that's okay. Nobody's gonna know the difference. So now we can move on to making our filling while that cools. First, we want to turn our oven down to 300 degrees, okay? And of course, your oven's gonna say it's already at 300 because you're at 350, but that gives it time to calm down, right, while we make the fillings. So, first thing we're gonna do is work on the main cheesecake filling itself. And for that, you'll need a hand mixer or stand mixer. And first things we're gonna put in here is 3 8-ounce blocks, so 24 ounces total, or 657 grams, 678 grams of cream cheese. Get this off there real quick. So I can put those in there. And you want those to be at room temperature, that you don't want them to be cold. Cold is not your friend when baking most things. And to this, we are going to add 1 cup, 200 grams of granulated sugar, just like such. And then we're going to add 3 tablespoons, 27 grams of just regular old all-purpose flour, plain old white flour like we use all the time for baking. And we're going to mix this. Now with cheesecakes, never a high speed. You always want to mix on low. So we're going to take this up to, on the same mixer, it'd be number 2. And we're just going to let this go until everything is incorporated, smooth, and creamy. Okay, so we've been about 3-4 minutes mixing. So we're going to go ahead and give it a good check real quick. We should be smooth and creamy. The temperature of your cream cheese makes all the difference in the world. The more room temperature it is, so to speak, the better off you are. You're less likely to get lumps. Yeah, cream cheese is not a fan of, being beaten and creamed and all that stuff. So if it's warm, room temperature, 72 or above, it will cream much easier. So, and scraping your bowl is always important. What this does is, like now, in this case, it's allowing me to make sure I don't have any big lumps of cream cheese in here, which it doesn't look like I do. So we're in good shape. All right, so now that we've got that discovery out of the way and that first step done, the next thing we need to do is we are going to add 1 cup, 230 grams of sour cream to our bowl. Work around our beater there. Alright, sour cream is in, and then we are going to add 3 tablespoons of cinnamon, which is, 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. It's the other thing we got to make, has that much in it. 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, which is just 4 grams of cinnamon. And then 2 teaspoons, 8 grams of vanilla extract. And I use a baker's vanilla. That's not a name brand, it's a type. You have regular vanilla and then you have baking vanilla. Baking vanilla will hold its flavor through the heat of baking, where sometimes even a pure vanilla extract will not. So you want to, if at all possible, try to find that. And once again, we're going to mix this on a low speed, no higher than 2, until everything is completely incorporated. Okay, so we are good and mixed, I believe, but once again, we'll quickly scrape down and make sure everything is on the up and up. Someday I'll have another glass bowl. I used to have a glass bowl way back in the day, and you could see into it, which made things a little bit easier, but not too much. I accidentally dropped it and broke it. Okay, we got our bowl scraped down. So we'll go ahead and I'm gonna turn that back on low. I have 4 large eggs at 50 grams an egg, so 200 grams of egg total. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna drop these in one at a time until each one is incorporated in, which means I can't see yellow streaks anymore. Okay, so we are at that point now where our batter is done. I mean, that was it. Now, I do want to note that if you see small chips of cream cheese, and I mean like chips, like paint chips, like flaking off, don't sweat those. Those will melt during baking. You're looking for, big pieces of cream cheese as far as that goes. And, oh gosh, what was the other thing I wanted to tell you? Well, if I remember it, I will come back to it. But it wasn't like horribly relevant, but it was relevant. So, anyhow, let me get this stand mixer out of the way and we can move on to making the second part of our filling. Okay, got everything out of the way. Batter's right there. So now we need to make that like streusel filling that you would have in a cinnamon roll, right? Yeah, the filling that goes in between the actual bread. And to do that, we are going to need 281 grams, 1 1/4 cup of just heavily packed. I mean, just that thing is like cement right now. It is so packed in there of light brown sugar. Let me go ahead and get my fork so we can get that out of there. And to this, as soon as I make a lot of ruckus, we are going to add 3/4 cup, 90 grams of all-purpose flour. We're going to throw that in there. And then we are going to add 4 tablespoons, right? Yeah, 4 tablespoons, which was 4 grams of cinnamon. I forgot to write down the grams, but it's 4 tablespoons, 24 grams. I remember weighing it out of cinnamon. And then we are going to add a half a cup, 114 grams of melted butter, 1 stick of melted butter to that. And then all we gotta do is mix this up. Now I'm just gonna use this fork since it's sitting here. And I may end up using my hand to make sure I get it all good. But what we're doing is we're making that streusel, or like a crumble, that's gonna be all ooey and gooey with the cheesecake. It's gonna be amazing. Okay, so we've got our crumble is made, right? And you see it's crumbly. It's not, you know, thick and solid. You want it to be crumbly, and we've got our batter done right there. So the next step we got to do before we fill this bad boy up is we got to put our springform pan on with some foil. Let me get you down here real quick so you can see what I'm talking about without just staring at my dishes for hours on end. There we go. So when you do foil, buy and I just started buying just this type of foil, the 18-inch wide foil. It's a wider foil. The problem with the 12-inch when it comes to baking, and you can use this wider foil for grilling or cooking or whatever, it goes wonderful on a full sheet pan too, is you end up having to use 2 separate pieces, and you don't want that. You want, well, if that's all you have, then that's what you use. But it creates a gap, a seam in the middle. And so what you end up with is the potential for that water in the water bath that we're going to do to seep into this and get into that crust. Now I've had that happen, and I've had it make a cheesecake crust incredibly soft. I've had it, you know, turn out okay once you get it in the fridge and everything's good and, you know, life has come together. But all we have to do is take this 18-inch wrap, and sometimes it may take 2 pieces if you don't get the first piece long enough, which I kind of did, kind of didn't. It just depends on your preference. So like you can see, like right here, maybe it didn't go all the way up. It's okay, I'm not sweating that, not by any means. So we'll get this on here. All right, so we are in good shape. We got a couple soft spots, but that's all right, not a big deal. The important thing is it's covered down here, right? Because if it's not, our water is going to come up to about here, right about the halfway mark, and you don't want it to, you know, seep in below that mark. So as long as your foil is above where the water line is, you're good. In this case, I know it's going to be. So we've got that on there. So now to put our fillings in, what we're going to do is we're going to put a layer of we're going to use a quarter of this, about a quarter of this, but we're just going to take it and we're going to sprinkle it in the bottom of this pan like such. And we'll go ahead and get this spread out a little bit. Doesn't have to be perfect, because what we're going to do is we're going to put that on there, then we're going to put a little of the cheesecake filling on, just like this. And then we'll do another layer of the cinnamon. Basically, we're just going to layer this out so it will end up with 3 layers of the cheesecake filling, 2 layers of cinnamon in between. So we'll go cheesecake filling, cinnamon, cheesecake filling, cinnamon, cheesecake filling, And then we should have enough left over that we can put some on the top also. Okay, so putting the final layer on the top. Just like such. I think that is solid right there. So, what do we have left to do? Well, we gotta get our water bath. So let me go grab the pan, won't take but a split second, and that way we can do the water bath. Okay, got our pan, got our cheesecake in it, and I'm just using a roasting pan. It's big enough to hold a 9-inch cheesecake. And then I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put my water in here. Now, up until the other day, about, I don't know, 3 or 4 days ago, I had never used hot water for a water bath, to start a water bath with, although I've seen tons of people do it. And then it was like somebody wanted me to try it because I found this electric hot water thingy for like 12 bucks on clearance. So I thought, okay, it's $12. Let's give it a try. And I did. And I still don't know the reasoning behind it, but there's got to be a reason for it, I'm sure. So I thought, well, I did it with that one and everything turned out okay. Let's do it with this one. So let me go ahead and get this in the oven on the center rack. Okay, we got our cheesecake in the oven, and now we just have to let it bake. Water bath, center rack, 90 or 80 minutes, 1 hour, 20 minutes is what we want on that. And then once that gets done, I will be back to talk about the next couple steps we need to take in this evolutionary process of this cheesecake. So I will see you here in just 1 second. Okay, so our timer is going off. So we go ahead and kill that. And then I am going to turn the oven off. We're not going to open the door, nothing. About 5-10 minutes before the timer was to go off, I opened up the door and I wiggled the cheesecake, well, I wiggled the rack, which wiggled the cheesecake, to see where we were at. And we were just like, kind of like Jello would do. If it's in the fridge and you wiggle a bowl of Jello, it wobbles, but it's still firm. Yeah, right? So you're looking for a wobble in the center of that cheesecake that's kind of like Jello. So we've turned the timer off, we've turned the oven off. I'm gonna go ahead and start this timer up here for 30 minutes, and we're just gonna let this cheesecake sit in here for 30 minutes with the door shut. Once that 30 minutes is up, I'm going to crack the door open and let it sit in there for another 30 minutes. Then after that, I'm gonna take it out of the oven, out of the water bath. I'm gonna set it here on this cooling rack where I'm gonna let it cool down to room temperature. I'll take the foil off of it and let it cool down to room temperature. Once it's to room temperature, I know it's a drawn out process, but once it's to room temperature, we will go ahead and put some plastic wrap over the top of it and put it in the fridge, and we're gonna leave it in the fridge overnight. So I figured it'd be easier just to tell you all that than show you step by step what I'm doing. Oven shut and off for 30 minutes, cracked open 30 minutes, cooled down to room temperature, which will take about an hour, and then in the fridge overnight. That way, in the morning when I come back, or in a millisecond for you, we can undo the cheesecake, make the cream cheese topping that goes on it. Oh, excuse me. The cream cheese topping that goes on it, and try a slice. So, I'll see you here in just 1 second. Okay, so our cheesecake is cooled in the fridge. Half hour oven closed, half hour oven cracked, about an hour and a half on the rack, about 8 to 10 hours in the fridge. And here's what we turned out like right there. Now you can see it's pulled away from the edge, you know, and that's good. If you want, when you after you let it cool before you put it in the fridge, just to help it along, grab you an offset spatula and run it along the sides there. Yeah, so you'll take it and just put it down in the side, kind of wiggle it down all the way to the bottom, and go ahead and give it a nice, you know, once around with it. This one's kind of cold, so it's going to take a second, but this just ensures that you don't have any anything sticking to the sides. And if you do this before you put it in the fridge, it'll help ensure that you don't have any stick. Now, if it does stick, it's okay. It might take a little bit off, but not much. But see, I mean, just like that there. And then what we want to do after that, we're gonna hold on to that, is we'll go ahead and release the pan. Go ahead and pull it out. I mean, look, we didn't have, I don't know if you can see it, sorry, but not really anything stuck to the side, so we're in good shape, right? And then there we are. Now, when you make your crust, there's a couple different ways to go about that. You can put a piece of parchment paper underneath there, and that'll help ensure it doesn't stick. But knock on wood, I have never had one truly stick. What I do is, this is my most flexible spatula. I just simply work it in between the crust and the pan, and I move it around just like such until it pops free of its base here. See how it's starting to move? And then I can grab my round, you know, or if you're putting it on a plate, put it on a plate, and then boom, done, just like such. No muss, no fuss. Now, I mean, you do get a little, yeah, can get a little weird there on the sides, which is all right. Now, before you go to serve, if you have this in the fridge already done up, let it sit for about 10 minutes. Your crust is really hard at the moment because it's been sitting with the butter, right? And if you cut it, you may not cut through the crust. I've seen that happen. We had an Oreo cheesecake at work that happened to. The crust was still so solid that they didn't serve the crust with the first few slices. But I mean, there we are. I think that looks pretty beautiful myself. You know, and you can see the line or two of topping we have on there. So what we'll do now is get that evened out on the round, set the round aside, and we can start making our cream cheese icing that's going to go on the top of it. Now I'm going to use my stand mixture, which is probably overkill just because there's not a whole lot that goes into it. But we're going to start by putting 2 tablespoons, 1 ounce, 30 grams of room temperature cream cheese in. Like I said, it's not much. And we're not making a whole lot of icing. It's just going to go a little bit on the top. 6 tablespoons, 84 grams of butter, which is 3/4 of a stick. And we're going to take that and we're going to get this creamed up. It's also room temperature, but we're going to get these creamed and mixed together real well. All right, we've got our cream cheese and butter creamed. Now by creamed, you went from a stick and like a little block to mashed potatoes. You know, very similar to light and fluffy in the world of cakes. So we've got that done. And like I said, you want this room temperature at least softened. And we're going to take that, and as soon as I figure out how to put this back together, there we go. And to this, we're going to add 1.5 cups, 173 grams of powdered sugar or confectioner sugar, depending on where you're at and what you're used to calling it. And put that in there. 1.5 cups, 173 grams. And then I've got 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And I know I said earlier we talked about baker's extract, and I keep saying it's not a name brand. And I want to show you real quick while I'm thinking about it, what I'm talking about. So, I mean, I use Watkins. It's what we've used when my mom did bake a few things. But it's a very popular brand, at least here. But see how it says baking vanilla on it? That's what I'm talking about. There is a difference. I don't have a regular vanilla extract to show you, or I would, so I don't buy anything but the baker's vanilla. But anyhow, we're going to go ahead and get this mixed up. Okay, so we've got that nice and creamy, right? We've got our powdered sugar in there, and we've got it turned to a cream, but we're going to pipe this on. So, I don't know if you can, well here, I'll bring it over so you can see it real quick, but see how, even though we're nice and creamy, it's really thick. I mean, no plop to it at all. So to solve that, conundrum. We are going to first get that back on there, scrape off our spatula and the side of our bowl, but what we can do to fix that is add some heavy cream to it and not drop our... I'm batting 1,000 at the moment. You guys will have to forgive me, my head hurts a little. And I've taken some aspirin. But so I've got 4 tablespoons, 30 grams, no, 60 grams, yeah, 60 grams worth of heavy cream. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 2 grams in here to start, because remember, we want to take this through a piping bag. So I'm going to put about 2 tablespoons in here to start, and that's 60 milliliters. If I say grams, I apologize. Alright, so I ended up putting 3 tablespoons in here, and even though we're still on the thicker side, see how it's kind of falling off the paddle now? You know, and not at a huge rate, but it's softer. And that's what we're looking for. You want to be able to get it through a piping bag, no different than if you're doing icing for a cake, you know, or cupcakes or whatever. You want it to still be, you know, be able to easily squeeze through your piping bag without blowing your tip out. Alright, well, let me get this cleaned up, and I'll get this in a piping bag for us, and then we can get started putting this on here and then hopefully try a piece. Okay, so piping bag, using the whatever the round tip is called, and oddly enough, even though I just used one last week with the Kit Kat cupcakes, this is not the same one. It's actually the biggest one I own, and I don't know what happened to my other one, but I do have a daughter who likes to borrow my kitchen stuff and go play with her kitchen set in her bedroom with real tools, so which is great. I'm not knocking on it by any means. That gives her experience with real world adult stuff. But all we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to swirl it on to give it that cinnamon roll look. Okay, we got our icing on there. Like I said, just a swirl, just like you'd have on a cinnamon roll. But sorry about that. If you're new, my monitor's right there. I have a really bad habit of looking into it, but I think that turned out quite nice. Yeah. So now the only thing left to do is cut a piece and give it a try. See how we did. You know. Now I'm not going to cut a big piece because I keep getting told that I'm pre-diabetic and I need to cut back on my sugar intake or try to find a way to eliminate it. But like I told Chris and my doctor, Dr. Smith, oddly enough, I'm no quitter. You know, so we're just going to have to kind of take it as it is. I'm also not a real good first piece person as far as getting it out goes, but that is perfect. Pretty much, yeah. And I think the inside of it turned out quite well. It's set nicely. I don't know if you can see in there real well, but it's set nicely. The lighting is horrible at times in this kitchen. But someday, folks, someday, I'll have a bigger kitchen. But there we are. I think that turned out quite delicious. So now the only thing we have left to do is give it a try. Okay, so let's give this bad boy a try. I'm so excited. My expectations are really high because, I mean, just the little bit of batter I tried, which I don't care what anybody says, you should try every aspect of your anything you're baking or cooking while you're making it to make sure it's right. But excited. Let's give this bad boy a try. Let's see how good or bad we did. Sweet Lord have mercy. This thing's dangerous. Oh my God. It tastes just like a cinnamon roll. I am going to weigh 300 pounds. Holy cow. That, my friends, is dangerous. That is quite a wonderful dish. Not hard to make at all. I think that has become one of my new favorite cheesecakes. I was talking to friend of ours, Vicky, and she just recently purchased a cheesecake off of us, but she had asked what my favorite cheesecake was, and you know, I told her the turtle cheesecake, the archway lemon cookie cheesecake is a real good one, and the snickerdoodle cheesecake is a real good one, which if you want to make any of those, I have videos on all three, but that might kick one of them out of the top three. That is amazing. Give this a try. Let me know if you do. You know, you won't be disappointed, I guarantee it. That is crazy good, not hard to make. The only time consuming part of it is the wait to get it to cool down, which is well worth the wait, I'm here to tell you. Holy cow, that is amazing. It tastes just like a cinnamon roll. Just like a cinnamon roll. Whew. Oh, did my heart good. But that being said, next week, dinner, I'm not real sure. Dessert, I'm not real sure of either. But if you check back in with me next week, I'm sure it's going to be something quite tasty. And probably not horribly healthy for you, but good for the soul. And that's important. You know, this is definitely a friend maker right here, and take this to a party. Holy cow, you are going to be the talk of the town, and in a good way. So, till next week for dinner, that I don't know what we're going to have yet, I love you. I love you very much. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Tell somebody else that you love them and love them very much. They may need to hear it. It's going to make them smile either way. It's going to make you feel good to tell them that. I guarantee that. And if you make them some of this cinnamon roll cheesecake, they're going to know that you love them without a doubt. It's going to make them giggle a little. I know it has me. It's going to lead to hours of conversation, and really there's enough there. You really could give some to the mailman, the guy walking down the street, the family walking down the street, the neighbors. You could even have a small gathering, pot of coffee, this cheesecake, and holy cow, you are going to make friends for life. So until next week for dinner, I love you. I'll see you then. All right, see you later. Bye-bye.